honorable people, and welcome to a Raw edition. We like it raw here of the Hollywood Heels podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, the rock star, the Renaissance man, the Duke Russo, and I am joined by the divine voice himself, Henron. Henron, there's a lot to unpack in this episode, man.
Yes, sir. It was a fun little episode of Monday Night Raw that we had going on this time. What did we have going on today?
So we are coming from Salt Lake City, Utah. Our match card has 8 matches. First up, we had Cody Rhodes versus Dirty Dom Mysterio. A crossroads leads Cody to the win over Dom. Next up, we had Kofi Kingston versus Ivar, accompanied by Valhalla. Kofi Kingston gets the win via pinfall after a Trouble in Paradise. Followed by Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ricochet, a rematch of the previous disqualification. This time, Shinsuke wins via disqualification after Ricochet returns the favor of using a chair on Shinsuke. We had the women's tag titles on the line with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. It was, I think, technically a no contest after Nia Jax dismantles all 4 women. The next match we had after this was Chad Gable versus Big Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed hit Chad Gable with a tsunami and wins via pinfall. We had a defense, the first defense of the Women's NXT Championship by the man, Big Time Becky Lynch versus Natalya, and still NXT champion Becky Lynch wins with a roll-up. After that, we had Tommaso Ciampa versus Giovanni Vinci, a little slight rematch of what we had a preview of in their tag match. The Sicilian stretch once again makes Vinci tap, handing Ciampa the win. And we had our main event. Main event, Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre. And after a whole shitload of interference, Drew McIntyre hits Jey with a Claymore for the win. However, we end the show with Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes standing tall in the ring together. This was a lot. This was a lot for Raw.
Yeah, it felt like there was a lot going on this episode, and you mentioned 8 matches. Every other show, aside from NXT, seems we've barely had any matches, and I guess they really wanted to just throw everybody in the ring today.
Yeah, I mean, the last SmackDown, I think, was 3. Obviously, that one was a little more story-focused and a little more segment-focused, but this had a lot of everything. So we open the show with a segment from Cody Rhodes. He comes out. They're still singing most of the words to his song. I'm definitely paying attention to that now. Cody donning I think this was new, a black and red jacket. I don't remember this one. I liked it a lot. Do you remember this one?
No, I'm not. A lot of people look like they had some new gear on today. Chad Gable, Drew McIntyre. Maybe Drew's won that before, but a lot of people look like they had some new digs on, so nice to see.
Yeah. It was very Raw themed, you know, the black and red coat, and then you get the back shot of the Raw logo in the background, and it was all color coordinated. I really dug it. So he comes out, hits you with the Salt Lake City, what do we want to talk about? So if you remember, the last time we had this from Cody, he kept trying to do that, and we never got to talk about anything. So he acknowledges that and says, I would really like to talk about main event Jey Uso. However, we get a interruption from Dominic Mysterio. So the boos start, but spoiler alert on my Dom Mysterio boo rankings, Salt Lake City falls in last place because I could hear every single word Dom said. He hits him with a kayate to try to silence the boos, but he continues saying that once Jey Uso joins the Judgment Day, they will be the most dominant faction in the WWE, which I find ironic because I'm pretty sure they've been saying that for a couple of weeks now. Dom explains that Mommy isn't here because she was injured by the ruthless assault of Nia Jax, but she will be back and better than ever. But tonight, after he beats Cody, he will dedicate his victory to Mommy. Cody plays up the fact that you can't hear anything from him. He basically recaps what Dom said for the crowd. And he takes kind of a stab at the relationship between Dom and Rhea, saying that, hey, maybe if you win, that'll finally do it, man. That'll finally be what pushes her to finally define your relationship. He throws a reference to Laura Winslow and Steve Urkel, indicating that he is way more into her than she is him. And he likes to point out that if you paid attention last week, it looks like Mommy's got a little bit of a thing for Jey Uso. Dom backpedals that immediately. No, it's not like that. We're all a family, and once Jey Uso joins the Judgment Day, he will know what it's like to have a family, because family always has each other's back. With this, we get Damian Priest entering, and we essentially break, and then when we come back from break, we're into the match. So what do we got for this match?
Yeah, and right before I jump into the match, I did love how they actually had Cody acknowledge that he did have something to say, because I'm glad they didn't just leave that out there, because everybody was wondering, what the hell were you going to say? And Michael Cole was so confused that Dominic came out and quote-unquote interrupted Cody. Cody came out in ring gear. He knew he was about to fight. This match was advertised last week. Why are you confused, Cole? You knew some shit later on in the evening that evidently nobody else was aware of, but all of a sudden something that was announced, you were so surprised that, oh, why would he come out here and ruin this? Like, this is literally what was planned. Why did you even try to come out here and talk, Cody? You should have just talked after the match. I don't know. Kind of a weird little setup, but was fun. We knew what we were getting into when we got into the match. We did have Dragon Lee out in the crowd. Looks like he does have a match with Dominic Mysterio next week on Monday Night Raw. Will be his, if this, will be his in-ring debut on Monday Night Raw. Don't think he's winning the title, but should be a really good match. I think that they'll give them some good time and put on a nice little showcase. Dragon Lee can go, so hopefully they allow him to do so. As we get into the match, it just kind of starts off with Dom pushing Cody a little bit, talking a little bit of smack before Cody hits his classic drop down into a little uppercut slap into the face. He does pick Dom up into a nice stalling vertical suplex, holds him for a good few seconds before throwing him down face first. I love when they just toss him down face first and don't just fall back into the classic suplex fashion. Some good stuff. We get a nice little figure four from Cody before Dom grabs the rope, gets thrown out. We get a little bit of back and forth before, of course, Judgment Day has to interfere. Dom distracts the ref for a little bit. Judgment Day cheats, pulls Cody off the ropes, allowing Dom to gain a little bit of control before, Cody gains it right back. Dom is going through his little Three Amigos suplex deal before he can hit that third one. Out of nowhere, Cody hits a giant Cody cutter, grabs him, puts him right into the crossroads. 1, 2, 3. Very quick match that we had here between Dom and Cody. Right as the match ends, we see all three Judgment Day members about to climb into the ring and get the beat down. But out come Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who has returned to us this week. And now we get a 3-on-3 standoff in the middle of the ring. And I'm sorry, didn't we just do this?
Yes, we did. And you know what? Even at the end of this, so we still didn't hear anything Cody has to say about Jey Uso.
Yeah, and Kevin Owens was being a little bit of a hater. We get Cody's music playing, and, the crowd's about to get another whoa, to hype him up. But Kevin's like, no, cut the music. I got to talk to him. But then they cut to commercial break. So you could have let them play the music into the commercial break, Kevin. Like, you were just sitting there doing nothing. And then they come back from the commercial break and Kevin's like, oh, now that we're back on air. Does anybody ever acknowledge these commercial breaks? I don't know. Little fourth wall breaking right there.
The commentators do sometimes. I don't remember who it was, but the other night somebody said, you'll get the, oh, well, they've just been singing for 4 minutes straight, or, they'll mention it, but the in-ring, I've never heard them mention it. But in that match, like, one little negative moment for me was that figure four was super sloppy, dude. It took, like, they kept, like, fumbling through it, and Cody, like, couldn't get his legs right, and Dom couldn't get his legs right, and I don't know who kind of fucked up that spot a little bit, but that was like a sloppy moment that you usually don't see from either of these two guys.
For sure. And what I think it was, and hitting the move is a little confusing in itself, but I think Cody put it on the opposite leg that he normally puts it on, because I feel like he normally puts his right leg down as like the last leg to hook down on top, whereas this time it looked like his left leg was down, meaning he put it on in a reverse manner, which he might not be familiar with. It didn't look the best. It kind of fought for a little bit, and he got out of it real quick. So I guess they didn't want to put too much shine on that.
Yeah, it was, like I said, those two are usually really good in the ring, so I was a little surprised with that one. But we do get into, after the break, the KO Cody segment. So we come back, and KO is saying that, from what he understands, Jey Uso is here because of Cody, which Cody confirms. And KO says that he doesn't need to go into the details of what Jey has done while he was in the bloodline. I want you to tell me why this is a good idea. And not just for me, but pretty much everybody in the locker room needs to hear this too. Cody says that he's sure that there's a lot of people that need to hear it, but there's a lot of people out here, referencing the crowd, who already know why. I've had a lot of tasks and roles, but ultimately my job is to make these people happy. And I'm going to answer your question, but you guys, the crowd, like Jey Uso, don't you? Obviously, we get a huge roar and approval. And he says that he's someone who's received a ton of second chances. And Jey, being one of the best in the world, deserves a second chance to show everybody why he's changed. Not to mention, the bloodline is down a member. So at the end of the day, what's so bad about that? This is where Sammy jumps in, saying that, hey, Kev, I've known you for a long time, and this is always how you've been. You take a while to warm up to people. Maybe I'm the opposite. Maybe I warm up too quick. I know Jey, and I've been through a lot with Jey. The situation that he had to dig himself out of, man, but you don't have to give him a second chance. But I think you should. And brings up the fact that they've given each other second chances. And with that second chance, they won the tag titles at WrestleMania. So, KO is being a little reasonable, saying, I hear you, I do. You want me to pretend that Jey wasn't why each of you lost to Roman when you had your opportunities to beat him and win the Universal Championship. You want me to pretend that Jey didn't cost me like 5 title matches against Roman. You want me to pretend that Jey isn't one shade of eyeliner away from joining the Judgment Day. You want me to trust Jey Uso? I can't do that, but I trust both of you, so I hope you're right. KO leaves. Commentary is suggesting that Jey hasn't changed at all, which, I disagree with. But, so, this is just kind of more of the same. I think this is building up to the fact that we're going to get, spoiler alert for later on, we're going to get some sort of like 3-way tag between these guys and the Judgment Day. I don't know if it's going to be like Cody, Jey, Sammy, or KO, Sammy, Jey versus Judgment Day, but they're all going to have, one happy love fest at the end of the day eventually.
Yeah, for sure. They're all going to end up joining together, and I'll get into my comments on where I think this will go a little bit later after the main event, because I do feel this has some impact on that as well.
Yeah, so after this, we get a quick commentary recap of the return of Nia Jax. They say that Rhea has bruised ribs from the assault and is day to day, and Raquel has whiplash, is also day to day. Explains where they are. So I don't recall this. I don't think you recall this. I don't think anybody recalls this, of the fact that we were supposed to have a 2 out of 3 fall match between New Day and Viking Raiders. I also don't recall that Eric is apparently medically unavailable. I don't know how or when that happened. Adam Pearce delivers this news to both of them. So they basically are like, well, Ivar is available. So Kofi and Xavier do rock, paper, scissors for who gets to fight Ivar. Kofi wins. So that is our next match. Kofi Kingston versus Ivar, accompanied by Valhalla. Take it away.
Yeah, and man, this was such an amazing match. I need to see more action between these two individuals. I need to see some tag team action. I need to see multiple matches. I would have loved to see a 2 out of 3 falls match between these two teams. That would have been great. I was unaware Homeboy was injured as well. Not too sure what happened or when. Maybe something to do with their recent match, but eager to see where this does eventually lead to. I know one of these teams is likely just fodder, so the other one can gain some momentum, which I think is the New Day. And one thing I did note at the end of this was New Day Judgment Day. I feel like, I don't know if we've seen that. So that was something that had me eager at the end of this match. But as we jump into this match, it's kind of starts off classic big man, little man match. Kofi is trying to get a couple headlock takeovers, but he just can't move the big man. Ivar eventually gains some momentum, knocks him down. But we get a nice little moment in the middle where Ivar is running the ropes and Kofi's just jumping over him, putting a little bit of flair into each of these jumps before hitting a nice back elbow and gaining a little bit of control before Ivar just sits on him, literally just sits on his chest, ass first, and puts the guy down. Kind of like what Nia Jax has been doing to people, and just cracking people's sternums. It was gross. Kofi does eventually get a little bit of a comeback, eventually does knock down Ivar with a big clothesline, only for Ivar to get up and eat another kick from Kofi where we get the first pinfall, but Ivar is able to kick out of that. Kofi does then charge at Ivar, but Ivar counters, throws Kofi over the top, and Kofi is now laying outside on the floor. Ivar, standing up on the apron, being the opportunist that he is, hits a nice splash off the apron right onto Kofi as it takes us into a commercial break. Right when we get back from that commercial break, we see Ivar climbing, this time inside the ring, up to the top rope to hit another splash, but the pool is empty. Kofi crawls out of the way just in time to miss the big splash from Ivar, and now it's Kofi's time, who makes his way up to the rope. I believe off the second rope, hits a nice little frog splash to the back of Ivar. Unique, not something we see too often. We get a little bit of back and forth. Kofi gets thrown and eventually climbs up the rope, jumps off, and hits a nice crossbody down to Ivar as well. Kofi maintains his control. We get a nice SOS by Kofi right on the back of Ivar's head. God, this move looks so much better than the Trouble in Paradise. I don't know why this isn't the finisher. Just do this to people all day. Oh my God. He tries the Trouble in Paradise. He does miss. Tries to hit another SOS. Misses again before he just gets caught. And as the announcers called it, a double underhook butterfly powerbomb. And basically he just grabs him like a pedigree and power bombs the guy, absolutely kills him, but Kofi is able to kick out at 2.9. Crowd's going crazy, chanting for Kofi. Kofi is slowly able to make it up to his feet, but eats a back spinning heel kick from Ivar right to the jaw. Flexible guy, this Ivar is, able to get his leg up there to knock Kofi down on that one. Eventually he does sit back down on Kofi, hits another sit out on him before he lays Kofi out, climbs up to the second rope and looks like potentially looking for a splash or something like that. But before he jumps off, Valhalla on the outside is yelling at Ivar, gives him the little whirly-do hand signal before he climbs up to the very top, turns around, and hits the beautiful big man moonsault. Kofi dies just right there on the spot, absolutely squished by this big man. They show the replay. His beard is just flowing in slow motion. Oh, it was so nice. We then get Kofi dragged into the corner, dragged up top, trying to get the superplex. Ivar is. Kofi's basically dead weight. He does eventually fight out, flips over the top for a nice sunset bomb, slamming down Ivar before he's able to get up, hit the Trouble in Paradise. 1, 2, 3. Kofi has the victory with no interference. And like I said, with that momentum, maybe we can see some Judgment Day action coming here soon.
Yeah, there were a couple like takeaways I had from this. The first one that I had was I miss Kofi in singles action. That was the number one. And then after that was like, okay, what's actually next for New Day? They're at this point, they are the most storied tag team in WWE. I mean, if you want to consider Usos as well, but realistically, as far as like seniority and just like legends, it's New Day. So they need to do more with them. Dude, this was match of the night for me. And when Ivar did the splash to Kofi outside the ring, I was like, oh shit, this is real. Like, that's when I felt like the match escalated and I was like, okay, this is going to be a serious match. The SOS was so fucking nice. That was beautiful. After Ivar hit the big man moonsault, which was insane, and gets the near fall, him ripping out his beard basically after Kofi kicked out of it. I loved that. There was just so many moments to love in this match.
Yeah, this was such a good match of the night here on the show. We just need more of this, and give Viking Raiders some action. Like, yeah, they're probably going to lose in the grand scheme of things in the storyline, but don't put them on the wayside. Like, these guys should be shown more. They should have more action. They should have longer matches because they can go.
And they did shit like this in NXT. I don't even remember what match in particular I have in my mind or who they were fighting, but I remember them doing moonsaults and shit before. So like they've had this in them all along. This isn't something that they've been like training for and just recently acquired. Like these dudes been like this. And hopefully this is an indication of them like getting unmuzzled at this point.
For sure. Bring back some of those NXT days. I mean, they pushed them once. Why can't they push them again?
The only bummer about this match was it's basically just a filler match. It means absolutely nothing because it was just holding us over until we get... I mean, I don't know if we're going to get the 2 out of 3 fall thing next week or if we're just going to get a tag match. I have no idea. They did announce a bunch of matches for next week. I don't remember seeing if... I mean, obviously, the stipulation will be if Eric is medically cleared or not. So, but yeah, it's just a bummer that this kind of meant nothing. After this match, we get a quick recap of the incident between Shinsuke Nakamura and Seth last week. And this leads us right into a backstage segment from Ricochet where he's getting interviewed by Jackie, who asks him, any final comments before the match. Ricochet is saying that it feels like Shinsuke looks at their matches as just another mind game for Seth. And he's saying, I'm nobody's pawn. I was past our match last week. I'm over Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke attacking me, hitting me with a chair, however, made it personal. Shinsuke can keep throwing flames in my face because it's only going to fire me up. And if it's games that you want to play, Shinsuke, let's play them because I'm a cheat code and tonight it's game over. Dude, that was a pretty nice line at the end.
I'm glad you like that line. Everything Ricochet tries so hard, and I give him props for trying. But I just feel like half the time he says stuff, it's just kind of corny and lame to me, man.
I feel like that's a big line in sports. Everybody talks about Lamar Jackson's a cheat code, Pat Mahomes is a cheat code. So, Ricochet strikes me as a sports fan. So I don't know. I liked it.
Most definitely. But I did like him acknowledging, I'm not a stepping stone. I'm not somebody to look past, right? So I'm glad that he has that confidence in himself because he can go out there. He can be a star as well. He can. I mean, he was basically at the level of Nakamura. I don't know if they actually ever gave him the NXT main championship belt, but the crowd loved him, and they should have. I don't know if we'll ever.
I mean, according to Michael Cole, he is the best high flyer in the business.
I mean, he's up there. I mean, if you really think about it, we got a couple standouts. A couple people have put on a little bit more weight, but he's been probably the most consistent. If we're not looking at other people whose careers might have ended a little earlier than anticipated.
No, and I think he's got a really well-rounded game. I do agree that, especially in WWE, he's top 2, 3 high flyer, and he's probably not 3. So he's up there. But this ultimately leads us into the rematch of Ricochet versus Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yes, and right as we get into the start of this match, we get the entrances. Seth interrupts Shinsuke as he's coming out there, and Pierce comes out. They try to break things up with security, but Seth is just fighting through. The crowd is singing his song in the background the whole time. This all turns out to be just a mistake on Seth's behalf because he basically gets his ass beat by Shinsuke. Shinsuke kind of ducks and dodges when he can, but every opportunity he has to damage that back, he does. But they eventually kick Seth out, and we actually get into the match with Ricochet. And Ricochet's mad. He starts off the match hot, trying to do everything he can to get some strikes in, gain that momentum. But Shinsuke eventually gets his cheap shot and gets right into grinding out Ricochet. Just a lot of grinding, submissions, kicks, putting down Ricochet, trying to keep him down. We did have some good moves. At one point, Ricochet was able to make a comeback with a nice DDT and a drop kick, gaining some control. But Shinsuke just spent a lot of the time stomping him in the corner, kicking him in the chest multiple times as he's down. We did have one nice little segment where Ricochet was trying to do his handspring back elbow deal, and very quickly Shinsuke was able to rush behind him, notice what he was doing, and knock him down, basically kicking him right in the sternum neck area, and then right back to grinding out Ricochet. Ricochet was able to come back with a nice standing moonsault, eats a few chops in the corner, and just kind of fades from then on. We do get another little back and forth here where we get Ricochet thrown into the corner. Shinsuke does charge into the corner, and Ricochet kind of counters, but gets caught by Shinsuke Nakamura, who throws his his legs into the ropes, attempting for his classic sliding German, but Ricochet is able to dodge. Shinsuke gets thrown out of the ring, and we get a nice little off the outside of the post moonsault by Ricochet right onto Nakamura as we get into the commercial break. Was a nice little move. Seldom do we see that, and I always feel it's a little dangerous hitting those moves off the post like that because you're just jumping horizontally after kicking off of that post. You really have to fight to get that momentum to bring your legs over, and you come over so quick. I felt it's a very dangerous area, so always mad respect as they hit those moves in that corner. As we come back from the commercial, Ricochet is able to get a nice big knee on Shinsuke, eventually gets his comeback going, eventually lands that handspring back elbow into a nice standing shooting star press. Shin is able to kick out of that. As we get a little bit more back and forth, we do get a crossbody by Ricochet, which led to just a 2 count, but the crowd chanted 3, and you could hear the crowd react like, oh, because I guess they were expecting the pinfall. It looked like they counted more than what the ref did, right? And even commentary had to notate that. So very kind of killed a little bit of the momentum in the match. At least it sounded like that from the crowd's end because it looked like they thought it was over. Then they were like, oh, well, I guess we're still going. But we eventually get them fighting on the outside. Ricochet eventually hits his little backflip off the chest into a step up enziguri, into Shinsuke grabbing a chair. Ricochet is able to dodge the chair, hits a super kick, but for some reason, I guess the rage deep within Ricochet fueled him to make the improper decision and attack Shinsuke Nakamura with the steel chair on the outside to disqualify him from the match. He gets upset and goes and decides to talk to the ref about it. The decision's over and he's not going to overturn it. I don't know why you're doing this. All you're doing is offering your back to Shinsuke, who immediately takes advantage and hits him in the back of the head, or hits him in the back of the leg, runs back and gets a nice Kinshasa to the back of the head. And now, Ricochet's got an injured leg. We get a nice little falling dragon screw to the leg as Shinsuke drags him to the post, throws his leg and knee into the post, and smashes it with the chair a few times before we get, Seth running in to try to save it. We do get Seth almost getting a pedigree onto a chair, but just gets thrown over the top of Shinsuke, landing back first onto another chair. And that kind of ends that in-ring segment.
Yeah. First thing that I would like to say is that maybe I'm kind of like KO when it comes to fashion, because my first reaction to Seth was, what the fuck is he wearing? Like, is he shopping out of Becky's closet right now? But then as it went on, I was like, yo, that's low key fire.
He had a nice little outfit on, and it looked even crazier later on in the backstage promo when he's got these sunglasses and shit on.
This was also the first match that I ended up noticing that the entrance ramp was all of about 10 feet long. I don't know why it really stood out to me, particularly during Shinsuke's entrance, but it's nice sometimes having a shorter ramp as opposed to the times when it's like, 500 feet to the fucking ring. I think this is just, I'm kind of over this whole thing, man. I don't know about you, but like, I don't feel very invested in Shinsuke Ricochet, and I'm honestly not even all that invested in Shinsuke Seth. Like, if we could maybe just skip this Shinsuke Seth thing and maybe just get right to Ricochet Seth, that would be kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still partially hype and invested in this because I feel like it's going to lead to Shinsuke winning that belt.
No.
I know that it's just not, really in the cards. I know that he's not a top guy, but man, like, now Seth he's becoming more unhinged. He's getting more injured, and he's giving even more control to Shinsuke and I don't think it was in this next segment. I think it was later on in the evening. But Seth gives up, and at one point he basically says, "Whatever you want, whatever stipulation you want, let's go." And I think we're gonna see more of that next week from Shinsuke. Hopefully, he tells us at the next pay-per-view, I want Seth, and I want him in. I don't know what match is going to make it the worst for Seth's back, but it'll make sense when we hear about it.
I mean, the obvious answer is ladders. A TLC match.
Yeah.
I will say that my favorite moment of this whole segment was when Shinsuke was walking out and he literally ripped a Seth head out of the hands of an audience member. Like, he wasn't even gentle about it. He straight up ripped it out of her hands and was holding it up and then doing the Seth singing motion. I literally wrote down in my notes, that was fucking poetry. But the thing about Shinsuke is, like, I like his promos. I don't mind his in-ring work, but when he's not, like, in the promo, I don't believe his character. And that just bothers me.
Yeah, I feel you. And I did love that cardboard cutout segment. Right at the end, before they cut to commercial, Shin holds it over his face and he just kind of starts trying to get the crowd to sing the song. I thought that was gold as well. But yeah, Seth is I do love seeing him just in shambles, though. Like when they cut to the backstage segment right after this, he's there yelling, "I'm fine," but then his ass falls down because his back's so bad he can't even walk, so he's crawling. I love that little add in there.
Yeah, right into the trainer's office.
Just so happens to be right there.
Yeah. So after this, we get a quick recap on the events between the Chelsea Green Shayna Baszler match when we had interference from Piper Niven and Zoe Stark. And then we go right into backstage with Chelsea and Piper being interviewed by Byron Saxon. And he is asking Chelsea how she feels about facing the formidable Shayna and Zoe. And so this entire segment, Chelsea is calling Byron Brian obnoxiously, and I love it. She says that Shayna and Zoe are not formidable. They're not even a real team. They fight each other. They like each other. They respect each other, blah, 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 blah. That's not what makes a real team. Friendship does, and rainbows and unicorns. And that's what Piper and I are. We're best friend. Piper interrupts. Wait, did you just say friends? You think we're friends? And Chelsea's like, of course we are, bestie. And Piper is saying, if we're friends, what country am I from? Chelsea starts off, Ireland, Florida, definitely Florida. And then Piper just walks off, absolutely disgusted. And Brian helps her out with the fact that it's actually Scotland. Of course it is, Brian. Oh my God. Do you think I don't know where my tag partner is from? Tonight, we're going to show Shayna and Zoe what a real team is like. Piper, come back. I meant to say Scotland. And we break and head into the match. So Chelsea on a mic is gold.
Yeah, I like this. This was a cute little segment. I love that she was calling him the wrong name. I love that Piper can acknowledge that we're not friends. And I just love the I don't know if hypocrisy is the right word I'm looking for, but like, first off, if y'all were a real tag team, you'd have a tag team name, you'd wear the same colors, and you'd have a joint intro. You don't have any of those things. So I think it's just funny her calling somebody else not a real tag team, not real friends. When, I mean, come on now, we get it.
Yeah, and I mean the reality is the women's tag division is dead. We've already discussed this. There is no women's tag. It's just random singles that are forced together and have, like you said, separate entrances. They don't have a team name. I mean, isn't Damage Control the only women's faction right now?
Faction? Yeah, actually. Like, nobody has given themselves a name. Maybe, like, I think we'll get a new faction with, was it Thea Hale, JC Jane, maybe Blair Davenport? I feel like that might be our next faction.
I'm kind of into that. I'll take that.
Could be an interesting one.
So after this, we get right into the match of the defense of the women's tag titles between Chelsea and Piper versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. What do we have on this one?
And this was a quick little fun match. It basically starts off with the theme of whatever you can do, I can do better between Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. Zoe starts off and gets a nice couple good moves in on Chelsea Green, but immediately, tags Baszler in because now Baszler wants some action as well. And, we get a little bit of back and forth. They're basically just taking over the match until finally we get, Chelsea does eat a big back elbow into the corner. Zoe's charging in on her, and Piper pulls her out of the corner, allowing Zoe Stark to jump, hit the post, and we get a nice little drop kick from Chelsea, where they finally gain some momentum. We do get a tag in to Piper Niven, gets a splash and picks up Zoe and hits a nice shoulder breaker. She's just throwing this girl around. She could just pick her up, no care in the world, and just slam her down. So it was a nice little showing from there. We do get Chelsea back in, and I don't know why Piper would tag her back in. You clearly are dominating. You should be in the match more often. You joined the team. You think your partner's incompetent, and these are your titles. I don't know if they said this was a tag title match or if this was just a match, but I don't think it was a tag title match because
I just assumed it was, but yeah, I don't think that they ever mentioned it.
either way, I think we'll eventually get this to be a tag title match because as we see getting here into a little bit, um, they're fighting. Piper tries to get back in, but eats a knee from Baszler, and now they're kind of fighting on the outside. Baszler gets hit with a headbutt and gets slammed down to the ground, but out of nowhere, the irresistible force, Nia Jax, makes yet another appearance and begins a rampage. You know, she takes out Niven, throws her into the post, throws her into the stairs, gets into the ring, hits a Samoan drop on Zoe, hits a big senton, slamming right down onto her. Chelsea Green realizes what's going on and tries to run, but does not get out of her reach as she gets a handful of hair thrown into the corner and eats the giant hip attack before we get Baszler hopping back in the ring. Commentators throw a little bit of the past between Baszler and Jax on here. They were former tag team champions together, I believe. Not just partners. I believe they were tag champs together. So I'd like to see some action there as well. I hope this Nia Jax stint, yeah, like from what I hear, it was only a 1 month contract. And yeah, I don't want to see anybody get injured from a lot of the past stuff that's been going on. But it's a fresh spin on the division. It's, you know, a woman that we haven't seen for a little bit, which could lead to some new matches that we haven't seen. And that could be fun. But Baszler gets crushed in the corner. She gets sat on by the big bonsai drop. And I think they're calling that the Annihilator.
Yes, they are.
So maybe it's like the Annihilate Her, right? Maybe we'll get a little bit of a twist on that. But she fucking killed Shayna Baszler with it. Baszler's just coughing her lungs out in the corner. So that's great. But we know that Ripley's going to beat Jax. Are we really just going to see her run through the division and interrupt everybody's matches and then beat everybody until Ripley comes back?
I think that's what's going to happen, basically. I mean, because she walks out saying, it's open season. I'll take out anyone I want and put the entire division on notice. So I'm pretty sure what that means. And, you know, it was an interesting moment because you sometimes you look at a wrestler and you're like, oh man, they're a monster. And then you see them next to another wrestler and you're like, holy fuck, they're the real monster. And that was a moment I had between Piper Niven and Nia Jax of like, we all know Nia Jax is a monster. And maybe it's just because she hasn't been around for a minute. But like, you think of Piper Niven and you're like, wow, she's a monster. But then when you see Piper Niven next to Nia Jax, you're like, oh my God, Nia Jax is just so much bigger than everybody, and it just destroys people. It's and that Annihilator move, dude, she does not hold back at all. Like, she's holding on to the ropes, but that ain't saving fucking nobody. She doesn't. I watched a replay of that like 5 times because I'm like, does she take any of that blow off? No, she doesn't. Her feet do not touch the ground before her ass crushes whoever is under her. It's just like all of her weight straight on somebody's chest. I don't think them saying Rhea has bruised ribs is a work at all. I think that's probably legitimate. And I think Shayna does now too. And I just wonder who the hell else got hurt during this segment.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, she's just gonna come out here and sit on these poor women every week and kill them. I'm glad that. I mean, I think I'm glad because I really don't know. But when she hit that hip attack on Chelsea Green, it didn't look as bad as Toni Storm's does. So I'm gonna hope that she didn't hit anybody that hard. But imagine if Nia Jax is out here knocking people's heads off like Toni Storm. Like, I'm pretty sure heads would literally roll.
Yeah, and I think she caught mostly turnbuckle if I was recall, that was to Chelsea Green. And I feel like Chelsea kind of got her head off to the side a little bit, and Nia caught mostly turnbuckle. But that was just, I know Chelsea Green exists to basically just be annoying and lose to people in singles matches, more or less. But she's been around for quite some time in the business. So like she knows how to make things work. And that was all her for not dying there.
Yeah, man, she survived, and I wonder who, like, between these four women, they're all probably deciding, like, who's gonna eat the sit out, who's gonna eat the annihilator. And Shayna Baszler was like, I'm the toughest woman. I guess, I'll be it. I guess I'll take it.
She's the baddest bitch.
I'd be like, no, I the doctor told me I can't eat those. I gotta stay away from those.
Yeah, specifically that move, specifically from Nia Jax. But dude, again, this Rhea Nia Jax match is gonna be a banger, and I can't wait for it. And I fucking hope that Rhea riptides her. Remember when she hit Charlotte with the riptide from like the top rope or the second rope or something? Oh, dude, I so hope that she riptides Nia Jax from somewhere that is not ground level.
Please, like, she's gotta like put her down, because like I feel like she's gonna hit a regular riptide, and it's not gonna do it, and she's gonna go crazy, and then what does she have to do? And then she's gonna do it.
Yeah, and I ultimately, it sounds more and more like this whole Jade Cargill thing is gonna happen. So I guess realistically, and the rumors say that she's expected to immediately get a huge push and be one of the top women in the division. So hopefully this does actually go through, and I'm guessing this Nia Jax thing is just basically holdover until then.
Pretty much, because I hope they don't put her down in NXT and keep her in the cycle like they do with everybody.
No, I specifically read that that's not the plan. Like, she will be main roster right away.
Okay, perfect.
So I sure as shit hope so. Who knows with Vince though? But I mean, he likes the buff dudes, so he's got to like the buff women too. So hopefully it plays out that way. So after this, we end up with Adam Pearce on the phone backstage. Don't know who he's talking to, but he's talking about Seth being evaluated. He's talking about addressing Nia Jax, and Chad Gable comes in. He's asking how Seth. Pearce is saying that he's hurting, but more than anything, he's angry. Chad was trying to pretend to care, but in reality, he wants to get to the point. He says that he beat Kaiser last week and is asking, what do I got to do to get one more opportunity? Just one more. Pearce gives him his flowers. That was a career-making performance, and you delivered. But Gunther won, and he can't just slide him back into the IC picture. It needs to be earned again. And we get a lovely pan 2 feet to the right, and Bronson Reed walks into the scene saying, hey, little man, get to the back of the line. Gable hits him with a good old shoosh. Calls him Big Bronson Reed, which I don't know if we're going to stick with this or if commentary during the match gets it better and ends up with Bam Bam Bronson Reed. Gable says that he made a name for himself by suplexing big boys just like Bronson. So if he wants to be the next in line, brother, it'll be his pleasure. And Reed is quite adamant that he cannot suplex him. And Chad's like, I'll do it right now. I'll do it right now. Pearce is pissed off after everything that's gone on tonight. So he says that he's had enough. If they want to fight, take it to the ring. You can have the next match. Anything to say on the segment?
This was a cute little segment. So fun. I love Chad Gable. I throw big boys like you around all the time. I love how they threw that in there. And then Bronson Reed, you can't suplex me. And commentary went for it or doubled down on that same notion. Is basically nobody cares who wins this. It's can he be suplexed or not? That's all we're waiting to see.
I am an adamant believer that the answer is yes, despite what happens later on the show. But before we get that match, we get a backstage interview where Jackie is interviewing Jey Uso. Jackie says that earlier tonight, KO had some stinging remarks about his return. Drew doesn't seem to be his fan and asks him how he's handling this not so warm welcome back. Jey is saying it's all good. You know, I got a lot of eyes on me, a big red target on my back. As far as me and Drew, I'm about to go out there and it's about to get real physical. We got history, so I know what to expect. Damian Priest interrupts the interview. Yo, Jay. Damian asks Jackie to leave and give them a moment alone. So Damian begins his pitch. I don't know how you view me, dog. We get another dog in here. But I'm here to ask you a favor. The Judgment Day is looking for an Uso. The crew is really pushing hard for Jimmy. But I'm standing here looking at you. I want main event Jey Uso in the Judgment Day. But I can't make that decision. It's not a dictatorship. We have family. Jey says, hey, I know all about family, Us. Where Damian comes in with all due respect. You know about your bloodline, taps his veins. That right there makes them relatives. What we got is something special. If you're willing and if you want, we can be the family you've been looking for your whole life. The only thing I'm asking for you is don't make me look bad in front of my family. Yes or no? Give us an answer by the end of the night. Priest leaves. So Jey has a lot to think about leading up to this match with Drew, and it ain't about the match with Drew.
Yeah, 100%. He's got a lot on his mind right here. And a few things I liked in this segment here. I like how Judgment Day just keeps saying my dog. Like, did it work for Sammy? So they're like, hey, just keep saying it. It worked for Sammy, so maybe it'll work for us. Like they're just behind the scenes talking to each other. And why did Priest tell Homegirl to leave so you can be alone? You realize y'all are on TV, right? And in like an arena full of people who are also watching you. Like, you're never gonna be alone. Like, I don't get that. But should be interesting. We find out later on what's going on, but Jey, looks like he's thinking about it. And one thing I wanted to mention, right before this, they were hyping up Friday Night SmackDown, where we had the return of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and they were talking about record-breaking 103 million views, and I'm like, is that YouTube? Is that like SmackDown plus the people in attendance plus YouTube? Like, what the hell does views mean? Who?
So that's social views, which they constitute as views on Twitter, X, Instagram, basically any social media they have. So the same person can count for like 4 or 5 views, but I did look into that.
Oh, okay. I understand it now. I thank you for clarifying that, because I'm just gonna start talking like that. Yeah, man, my shit, it had like 15 views, bro. Feel it.
Yeah, that was a weird flex moment. But so they've been like flexing that for a little bit now. I can't remember the first thing I saw it with, but because I mean, we see all the time, like Big Papa Dave Meltzer will like announce his sources for like the actual view counts on live and whatnot, and ain't no 103 million people watching live, not even fucking close. So yeah, they're counting impressions, I think they're called, on X, and like views on Instagram and all this shit. So it's a really like cheap thing to me.
Like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I understand why they're doing it. But I mean, keep on keeping on, right? I am eager to see what the rating was. I don't know what competition there was on Friday, and they didn't announce it beforehand, but people heard about it and they tuned in for that segment. So if we don't have if that show didn't double what things have normally done, like can they say that The Rock is that big of a draw as he used to be? Are we, what do they say, hyping up the past more so, glorifying the past more so than we think it was? Because there's a lot of shit talking that WWE has no current stars. It doesn't have this, doesn't have what it had back in the day. But if The Rock's so good, he should triple the number because it's The Rock, And I'm no slight to him. I just don't think we're going to see that huge of a jump, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm very curious on that note.
Well, I think the issue with this one is that it was a surprise. And I think it was a legitimate surprise because I didn't know it was going to happen before it happened. I mean, we've been hearing rumors of Rock randomly returning for a long ass time now, and it never happens. So if I see like a random rumor that he might appear, to be honest, I don't really buy into it anymore. And I didn't know that he was actually on the show until he was on the show. So by that logic, I'm assuming most people didn't. So realistically, like the real time views of the show were probably no different than any other SmackDown.
And I think that is a fault by WWE. It's nice to have surprises, but maybe we should have announced him because, again, I feel like he was only really back just to get some more views, to get some more publicity, just to get some more, ups before we finish this year, especially with this new merger. They want to make it look like as soon as we hit this merger, boom, look at everything. Views were increasing, profits were increasing. Look at it, even though they're probably doing things to artificially increase that.
Yeah, and well, we'll know if next WrestleMania we get Cody Roman, then it's just following storylines, finishing the story. But if next WrestleMania we get Rock Roman, then it's all about the views, baby.
I can't wait. Finishing the story is forever just going to be a Cody meme for the rest of wrestling history.
And I actually feel like he's in real jeopardy of never finishing the story.
God, can you imagine? Can you imagine that he just sits out his contract and then like he doesn't get the title? You think he goes back? Like, what do you think happens?
No. He would 100% go back to AEW. I mean, I don't know all the details on how that relationship was when he left. I know it wasn't like the best of things, but I don't think it was like mega ugly, unless you know otherwise. But like, if he came back and basically this entire time his goal was to win the belt his dad never had, and he gets teased it so many goddamn times, dude, I would fucking leave.
Yeah, man. I'm happy he got his name back at least.
Yeah, fair. Nobody wanted Gold Dust. So after all of this, we finally get to the match with Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed. Gable is accompanied by Otis and Maxine Dupree. And I do want to point out that Samantha, being the MVP of WWE that she is, she does this little thing with Maxine Dupree's name where it's like, Maxine Dupree. I was like, all right, I can get into that.
She has fun out there. And like we were commenting on earlier, Gable was rocking like a little bit of purple here. I really liked his little singlet on this occasion. I don't keep too much track of what everybody wears. I don't know if I've seen this before, but I thought this looked really good. I don't know if it was just me, but the purple popped. I really liked it. What did you think about it?
Dude, maybe he's going to join the Judgment Day. Maybe that's where this is going. He just needs the purple eyeliner. He's one shade of eyeliner away from joining the Judgment Day, bro.
Yo, if Chad Gable, he would actually be golden Judgment Day because he's just as lame as Finn is, and how Finn's always coming out all goofy, my dog, cheesy and shit. Oh my God, if Chad Gable was doing that, it'd be fucking gold.
Shoosh, my dog.
Dude, And speaking of Judgment Day, JD McDonough injured? Well, where the fuck you at, bro?
All right, I don't even remember where I heard this or where I read this or whatever, but I saw or heard people speculating that it happened at the same time Vince came back, that JD disappeared. So basically speculating that Vince wasn't a fan and that he decided to make JD go away. I don't know. I have no real sources or any of that. I don't, like I said, I don't remember where I heard it, so I don't know how valid that is. But it would be a very Vince thing, and we also know that Vince is not the biggest fan of the tiny guys, and JD ain't exactly physically imposing in the ring. So I don't know.
That would, I mean, all of his past, transgressions aside, that would suck.
Yeah, but I wasn't. I'm not really a huge JD McDonough fan, so I can live with it.
Yeah, he's fallen off for me. I used to be a fan back in the day when he was Jordan Devlin. I swear, I hope that's the same guy, right? I'm not just making shit up, but I feel like he went like that's with the JD, and they changed his name and he grew his hair out. But back when he was going under that moniker, I was more of a fan. But whatever. Oh, we'll jump right back into this match here. Right back into Gable versus Big Bam Bam Bronson Reed, whatever anybody wants to call him now. A few nicknames thrown out here today, as you pointed out. But we get the match starting off, and Gable goes right to try to suplex the guy, and and the guy just kind of shrugs him off. He tries to, get his amateur wrestling on and get a leg pick, and he almost gets powerbombed because of it. He's able to get out of that. He's still fighting a little bit. He tries to get a German, eats a back elbow before eating a big splash in the corner, and then just gets tossed by Bronson Reed here. It looked like a belly to belly, but he kind of had a weird grip on him. It almost looked like a capture suplex, but he was holding his left arm under his armpit and his right arm around his neck instead of his left arm underneath his leg. But just chunks this guy across the ring. Gets thrown hard into the turnbuckle, but Gable is able to make a small comeback here. Gets a nice neck chop, jab to the neck to slow down, climb up to the top, but he gets picked right off the top and is just held up in a press position, just full extension of the arms as Bronson Reed holds Chad Gable straight over his head, looks directly at the corner turnbuckle directly across the ring with evil intent in his eyes as he takes a few steps and just throws Chad Gable stomach first into the top of the turnbuckle. Gable's able to barely catch himself after eating that injury, standing up on the apron, only for Bronson Reed to charge in and hit a splash, knocking Gable right off the apron down to the floor as we get a commercial break. A little bit of back and forth as we get back from commercial break. Gable tries to hit a chop block to the back of the leg. Again, fails to knock Bronson down and eats a big clothesline because of it. Gable gets put up on the top rope and does get a counter here as he grabs the arm after taking a couple punches and gets a hanging arm bar over the top rope. Of course, the ref breaks it up because he only has a 5 count while doing that, but Gable's quick to the action. Reed is down on one knee. Gable gets a few strikes in before hitting a nice rolling kick to the back of the head on Bronson Reed, climbs up to the top for the big headbutt splash only to get a 2 count. As they both get up, he tries yet again for the German, but gets knocked down because of it. At this point, Bronson Reed tries to hit the senton, but Gable's able to get his knees up. Unfortunately, this does damage his knee, which gives out as Gable yet again tries to suplex this man. Unable to do so as his knee gives out, he jumps on his back for the choke, and Reed just leaps into the air, landing back first right on top of Gable and just squishes the tiny man before he climbs up, and we get the giant leaping splash, the tsunami by Bronson Reed. 1, 2, 3. Reed pins Gable.
Dude, my immediate reaction to this match was why? Like, why why the loss for Gable? I feel like this damages him because, dude, Bronson Reed ain't exactly been winning matches. I feel like the last match I saw him in was against Shinsuke before this whole Shinsuke Seth thing. So before they were pushing Shinsuke, and he lost. So, like, I felt like this was a really damaging loss for Gable. If you wanted to build the tale of Gable being able to suplex Bronson Reed, you could do that in one fucking match. You don't need to make him lose this match and us replay the match, and in the next match, he suplexes Bronson Reed. Like, I thought this was a really dumb decision that either they're trying to... I still believe that they want to try to, like, get the IC on Gable, or at least like have another convincing IC match with Gable. So either they're playing this super goddamn long and Gunther's holding this shit until WrestleMania, or I don't know what they're doing. Like I felt like this was a dumb loss.
Yeah, I really don't know where they're going to go with this either. Obviously, this is going to lead into the match next week with Otis, which should be a nice little big man match. I don't know who might win that, because I feel like if Otis wins, he's got his revenge from his friend, and we don't need to see the Gable rematch, but this has to somehow lead to a Gable rematch. So I feel like Bronson Reed's going to win and maybe injure or do something against Otis that's going to cause Gable to run out and, you know, fend him off, which is eventually going to lead into their rematch, where we do eventually get the suplex, which might eventually lead into him going back at Gunther. But I feel like you can't just beat one guy and you're back in the title picture. You got to beat, you know, multiple guys. So I don't know who might be next on the list after he beats Bronson Reed, but I don't know. We'll see. We're eventually definitely getting back to Gunther, and I feel like it's sooner rather than later. I feel like it might be a pay-per-view match on Fastlane or whatever the hell we have coming up, but I guess it is coming up pretty quick.
Nah, we're the next PLE match for Gunther. We already know what it is, and it's based on the next promo. So I'll get into that promo. It is a promo by Tommaso Ciampa, and it was a banger of a fucking promo. I got to give this man serious props for this one. It's Ciampa backstage, sitting in a chair in front of a roll-up door, looking dead into the camera, super intense, and he starts off, I like to think I'm a patient man, an observer. And when I came to Monday Night Raw, I made an agreement with myself. And that agreement was to play the long game, be patient, and eventually my number would be called. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited. I found out that in this universe, patience is not a virtue. It is a crutch. In this universe, if you want something done, you create your own opportunity. So tonight, Giovanni taps again. And then what? Ludwig? And then what? Imperium? You didn't choose me. I chose you. We don't gotta play a long game of mystery to find out why. Gunther, you have what I want. Throws the chair and leaves. Dude, this segment was fire.
Yes, I'm very happy that they're actually giving like a big spotlight on Tommaso Ciampa. You know, we haven't seen this guy really do anything since he's been up here on the main roster, except for some crap with The Miz. And I'm so glad we have him in an actual feud. We get to see an actual match, and oh my God, they're going to beat the shit out of each other.
Dude, it's going to be so good. He was such a good champion down in NXT. And this also solidifies more that I feel like they're pushing him solo, and Johnny Gargano is going to be the one traded to Smack. Which, by the way, there's been no mention of that since it was like briefly mentioned in passing of like who's actually getting traded. So I don't know if they're going to wait until fucking Survivor Series to announce that shit. But I still feel like Johnny Gargano is going to be the one that's traded, and now, you know, they're giving Tommaso Ciampa a singles push, and I love it. Sign me up, dude. I'm big on people who like primarily focus on submissions. I don't know why. I've just always been a sucker for that, all the way back to like being a huge Sting fan in WCW and whatnot. Ric Flair with the figure four. Like I've always just loved submissions. So yeah, please give me this match. I feel like this is going to be the Fastlane match. I don't see him beating Gunther, but I see this being like some of the filler holdover until Gable gets his next shot.
100%. You know, we're gonna get Kaiser next, which will lead into the PLE match, which should be great. And unfortunately, that's probably going to end it. And then we'll see Ciampa fade to the background once again. Did we ever get a Ciampa Gable match? Because I feel like if Ciampa loses, we might get like a number one contenders match between those two in the future, which could also be fun.
No, a matter of fact, they've been kind of like buddy, so much so that I was wondering, like, hey, after, you know, if I'm right and Gargano's traded, you know, does Ciampa join the Alpha Academy? Like, I thought that could be a possibility, but no, I like how they're playing this of like, you know, I had a reason for doing that, and my reason was to end up beefing with Imperium so I can take out Gunther. Now my question to you, because you've watched more past NXT stuff than I have, did we ever get a Walter Ciampa match?
I don't think so. I think I think at the time Walter was either the UK champ, and by the time he moved to the big NXT belt, I believe Ciampa was already out and moved up to the main roster, or out on injury at the time, because he was out for a while dealing with some past injuries. So I don't think we've ever. I could be wrong, but I don't, especially myself, I don't ever recall seeing those two fight. So that's why I'm eager for this one as well, because especially in shape, Walter. Not that he put on any bad performances in the past, but now that he's trimmed down, I mean, you know, we get just a lot more action, a lot more intensity from the guy.
Yeah, I'm all for it. So after this, we get a recap of Becky winning the NXT title against Tiffany Stratton. It was a great match, and I love this. It was a quick little snippet before they go to break after they did the recap, but we get Becky walking backstage, and Akira Tozawa is waiting there, wants a fist bump from Becky. She just stares at him for a second and gives him a quick fist bump. You know, he gives the reaction like it hurt, and then we move on. I don't know why. It was like 10 seconds long, but I loved it.
I think they fucking love Akira Tozawa. Like, I think that they love that guy there for some reason.
And let the dude win a match.
No, they don't like him that much.
So after that, when we come back from break, we end up with a backstage segment between KO and Sammy. They're arguing about Jay. You know, KO is basically saying, I gave him a chance, and you saw what happened. He kicked me in the face. Sammy is, you know, you said yourself that was an accident. And then KO is saying that Sammy just saw Jay talking to Damian Priest. Sammy's saying it doesn't mean anything. And then Jay comes in. Jay addresses KO immediately. You know, if you got something to say it to my face. KO, being the person that he is, says it to his face. You know, I think you're with the Judgment Day. And if you're not now, you will be soon enough. And Jay is still trying to apologize for last week, saying that it's an accident. KO doesn't buy it. Yeah, sure. What about this week? What about with the bloodline? You couldn't do it by yourself. Then the same thing is going to happen here. Before long, you're going to run to the Judgment Day. Sammy's trying to calm everybody down, take some deep breaths. And KO says, sure, we can calm down. I'm cool. I just don't trust you either way. Whether you join the Judgment Day or not makes no difference. KO storms off. You know, Sammy's talking to Jay, telling him that he's got to understand that he just needs some time to come around. This Judgment Day stuff, he doesn't know exactly what's going on. But it sounds like Jay's got a really big decision to make tonight, and he wishes him luck with it. So more just foreshadowing of what happens later tonight in the main event.
Yeah, I love to see them bicker. I love that, you know, Sami Zayn is, you know, still kind of sticking up for the guy. And I love Kevin playing up to his character. He doesn't care. He'll fight anyone. He'll say anything, anytime. He speaks his mind, and he's not scared, you know. So Jay's still trying to show that he's now with Judgment Day. and he has a decision to make later on this evening. So we'll see, what happens as we get there.
Yeah, I've always loved KO for just his ability to just say whatever the hell he wants. And I really do feel for Jay because I think I brought this up in a previous pod. It just feels like the Judgment Day is pushing Jay to join them, Judgment Jay. And then the people who hate Judgment Day are pushing Jay to join Judgment Day. So it almost feels like everybody except for basically Sammy and Cody are pushing for him to join the Judgment Day, whether they like the Judgment Day or not. And that's just a shitty place to be. So after this, we get Becky Lynch coming out and addressing the crowd. I just want to say that I think the NXT Women's Championship is the best looking NXT belt without question. I don't know if it's the white strap or not that does it for me, but something about it, I just think that's the best NXT belt. Becky comes out with the man has come around to Salt Lake City, and the man is the new NXT Women's Championship. I admit that winning this title wasn't exactly on my bingo card, but I've learned that you need to take the chances and the opportunities when you can. I didn't just want to win this title to put it on my mantle and say that I am a Grand Slam champion. Congrats, Grand Slam Bex. Although she does admit that that's quite nice. She wants to defend the title and elevate it to new heights. NXT represents the future of the business, and she wants to test herself against the very best that this future has to offer. She says that she'll be on NXT tomorrow night, and that she knows there are a ton of hungry women back in the locker room. She straight up issues an open challenge. And so she says that I can't think of a better place than now, and I can't think of a better time than, I messed that up. And right as she does that, we get an entrance from Natalya, who comes out hot on the mic. There is no one in this company who has worked their ass off more than me for an opportunity. She reminds everybody that she took Rhea to her limits a few weeks ago, which... Did she really? Because I maybe we remember that differently. And she straight up accepts Becky's open challenge. So Becky says that, she respects her. She respects Natalya. They go way back even as teenagers. But when she issued the challenge, she kind of meant it for someone new. Maybe somebody who hasn't had opportunity. Maybe somebody who hasn't been here for 15 years already. Natty is a bit offended on that, saying that she dedicated 15 years indeed of her life to this. And you say that, but at the same time, you're taking opportunity from somebody else. You went down to NXT and stomped on all of those women. You're nothing but a quote unquote hypocritical ginger witch. Becky says, okay, you want to go? I accept. It was a weird segment. And also, I feel like this is so typical of how WWE handles Natalya. I feel like somebody is like just newly anointed as a new champion and their first defense is against Natalya because they know that she'll like put on a decently good match and lose. So it's just like almost script play at this point,
Yeah, 100%. First thing I wanted to mention was I swear this segment had me thinking. I swear last week they told us we were going to hear from Nia Jax. I thought I was told I was going to hear from Nia Jax. So when Becky came out to talk, I was like, I thought somebody else was coming out here to talk. We are getting later into the show. So I was like, where is that chick? Because, we saw her earlier, but I don't know where she's at now. And Becky hyping up NXT title represents hope in this division. And I was hoping to see somebody different from the division. I literally wrote down Natalya, gross. Ugh. because I don't want to see this anymore. She's like the Dolph Ziggler in the women's division. Every time we get a new champion, every time we get a new person, we got to send them out there to give them a match. And yes, it's usually not a bad match, but it's like John Cena. Like we know what we're gonna see. You've been around so much. I'm so tired of it, Natalia. Like great, props for you. You're around. You train. You help people out. I know that they were really hype on her for stepping up recently because I believe she stepped up in Saudi Arabia or wherever the hell they recently were at because there were some visa issues and, good job. Thank you for being a team player. But man, I don't care. I just don't care. My brain turned off when she came out here because I'm like, we know what's going to happen. Like, without even seeing the match, oh, we're going to get a sharpshooter. Oh, she's going to reverse it. Oh, we're going to get a disarmer. Oh, she's going to reverse it. And we're eventually going to get a slam into a win. I didn't have to see the match to basically predict exactly what's going to happen. And I hate having, basically a prediction in my head because something is just predictable, feel like we've seen it before. And I bet if we look back into the history, we probably have seen this a couple times before. I did love the hypocritical ginger witch. That woke me up. But other than that, this was kind of meh.
Yeah, I felt the same way as Becky of just like, yeah, this open challenge wasn't really meant for somebody like you. Maybe somebody like Zoe Stark or shit, dude. I'd even be okay with it being Shayna Baszler or whoever the hell you wanted it to be. Just not somebody who's been there forever. Walk somebody out that I could see as a believable contender to her, not just somebody that is, oh, well, it's your first defense. So this is, because wasn't she also like Rhea's first defense? I feel like. So I don't know. It was a weird moment. As it was, we had 8 matches tonight. Did we really need this match? I don't think so. It's not like it was a long match anyway, but Becky is appearing on NXT. So like, did this matter at all? I don't think it did. So we get right into the match. So take it away.
Yeah, and I don't know. Please correct me if I missed something at the start of the match because, like I mentioned, my brain was kind of turned off for this one.
Dude, you literally summed up the match already.
Like the things I can remember, we had Natalya. She hit a nice little superplex off the middle rope. Tried to hit the sharpshooter, but Becky was able to fight out of it. And instead of doing the classic roll up by grabbing the thigh from the ground level, she ends up throwing her, back of the head first into the turnbuckle. And I really like that little bit, that little move right there. She just climb up top, get a nice shotgun drop kick before we get a little back and forth, before Natty's able to hit her 360 clothesline. Nice little move right there. We get some more fighting for submissions. Natalya's trying a sharpshooter. It gets reversed into a disarmer. That gets reversed once again. Eventually, they're both kind of sitting on each other, and we're getting some roll-ups. First, we get Becky, who gets countered by Natalya, who gets countered by Becky again, who actually holds her down for the 3 count. And we just get a simple roll-up victory by Becky. Still your champion. Natalya is disappointed and confused. There is no attack after the bell. And that was just kind of it.
Yeah, I don't think we needed this match. In a very long Raw anyway. I didn't need this. We'll just move on. After this, we end up with a backstage segment with Dragon Lee and Adam Pearce. Pearce and Lee are talking, and Dom interrupts and says he lost to Cody because he was distracted that mommy wasn't there and that she's hurt. And she's hurt because Adam Pearce isn't doing his job and isn't punishing Nia Jackson. Instead, you're talking to this guy, Dragon Lee. And he points at him saying, I don't like guys in masks. They remind me of my deadbeat dad. He acknowledges that they have an upcoming match and says that he will remain the champion. Dragon Lee, if I get this wrong, didn't have the easiest time understanding him, but he, I believe, says that I don't know what Rhea sees in you, but after next week, she won't see you with that title. And that's the end of the segment.
Yeah, no, you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I do love Dom being mad because somehow this is Adam Pearce's fault for not doing something about Nia Jax. So that's what distracted me, and that's why I lost. It's not my fault. Yeah. So I love that. I love him still hating everything that reminds him of his dad. He's always going to hold that beef. I'm sure we'll get some more action. I love how they're both quote unquote an American/US champion. They need to fight each other again. And Dom needs to beat him for that belt, but I don't think we're going to see anything fun or cute like that. Would be nice on Survivor Series. We did have like a Survivor Series when NXT was actually brought in as a third brand, and it wasn't just Raw versus SmackDown. It was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. And I love that idea. Is we get some three ways, the triple threat between the North American, the IC, and the US champion. That's a different format that we seldom, if maybe only once, have seen on Survivor Series. And I think it'd just be a great way to put in some fresh matches. I'd love to see. Okay, so they'd have to take the belt off of Gunther because we can't put Gunther in the ring with Ray and Dom. He would just kill both of them. But, you get that belt on Chad Gable. That's a fun little small man three-way.
Those be some throw-in chaos theories.
Oh my God, he hit a double chaos theory like on both of them, and sign me up.
I mean, the dude's he's mini Kurt Angle. We all know it. Let me see it, please. After this, we end up right into the Giovanni Vinci versus Tommaso Ciampa match. Take it away.
And I really like this match. Wasn't super long, but was a nice little match, and we knew what was going to happen. It's Giovanni Vinci. Just like Natalia, he's going to take that pinfall. You know what he's here for. So I don't know why, I don't know why anybody would ever expect anything else. But, he did put on a good showing and actually gave us almost a believable match. Almost.
But not quite.
Not quite. As the fight starts off, and something that we're always going to see, you got your buddy out there, Kaiser. It's Imperium. We know we're going to get a little distraction and some cheating action. We do see Gunther watching backstage as well, so he's analyzing his next potential opponent, making sure he stays ahead of the curve, so he knows the perfect way to chop this man back down when they eventually do have their match. There are a couple nice moves. There was a big backdrop by Vinci to Ciampa, gets a little bit of taunting to Ciampa before Ciampa is able to hit the Thez press, get some nice pounding action down on Vinci. We eventually get Ciampa back on top, hits a nice reverse DDT. We do have Kaiser trying another distraction where Vinci takes advantage of this, rolls up, but only gets a 2 count. We get some nice strikes back and forth. And one thing throughout this match, just the strikes, the chops, the forearms, the kicks, they were hitting each other hard. It was beautiful to see and beautiful to hear. Not always do we get, the loud strikes, but even Vinci, man, he was laying them in, and it was very nice to see. But was a fun little ending here. They're both, I should say, Vinci's running off the ropes, hits a nice springboard, going for a crossbody or something, but Ciampa just catches him midair with the flying knee. He's down on the ground. Ciampa climbs on top, throws that neck over his shoulder, and pulls him into the Sicilian stretch. Vinci eventually taps out, and Ciampa is your victor.
Yeah, that flying knee connected hard. Like you said, everything connected hard in this match. But that knee in particular, I was like, wow, that was oof. My biggest problem with this match was Kaiser interfered right away, right in front of the ref. The ref was staring at it, and he did nothing. No ejection, no DQ. It was like he didn't give a shit. And I was like, this isn't like a no rules match. Like that. Okay, if he doesn't see it, he doesn't see it. But he saw it and did not a goddamn thing about it. That kind of bothered me.
Yeah, ref's discretion, just like last week with the Judgment Day, and they watched him watched it happen, and he was like, you know what, I'm just going to kick you guys out. And then they didn't really leave when it should have just been a DQ.
Yeah, it was not my favorite moment. After this match, we end up backstage with Seth freaking Rollins, who never addressed the crowd. We never got a Monday Night Rollins. It's been a while since we didn't get one of those. Like even last week, I think it happened like halfway through the show, but we still got it. So it was a little sad about that. But he's getting interviewed by Byron, and Byron is asking him, you tried to bring the fight to Shinsuke. It was not the outcome that you wanted, but how are you feeling? So Seth tells him that I'm tired, I'm in pain, I'm trying to keep it together, but I am losing my mind. I'm so sick of Shinsuke's games that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get him in the ring. He wants to do things on his terms. Maybe I'm going about this wrong. Maybe I just take my hands off the wheel. Shinsuke, the ball is in your court. Name the time, name the place, name the stipulations if you want. But remember, our destinies are intertwined, and ask yourself, will you be the one to define your legacy, or will it be me? Seth is totally losing it. This really does remind me of him versus Fiend, of when he just lost his shit. And are we getting a heel turn from Seth Rollins? Is that where this is going?
Something's gotta happen. Like something big is gonna happen because this dude's about to snap, and I feel like it's too soon for a heel turn. The people are still singing his song; they still love him. I think this is why I think that Shinsuke is gonna take this title and likely be a transitional champion. I think they're gonna give Seth a break. He's going to push himself too hard. He's going to lose his mind. He's going to snap, and he's going to hurt his back. And that's going to be the excuse that they let him go MIA until the Rumble, where he comes back. And I don't see him winning the Rumble.
Wins it and dethrones Roman?
I don't know. I could see him, if it depends on who the champion is. Because I don't think Shin will be if Shin wins, I don't think he'll be the champion by the Royal Rumble. I think that likely they might have moved it on to Gunther by then, potentially. And we can see Seth, win the Rumble to try to get back at Gunther. If Gunther's not the champion, I think he's winning the Rumble no matter what, though. So I don't know.
Yeah. One thing that I'm actually a little disappointed about is they're not I know that it's really only been a week since Becky won the title, but I want to see Becky and Seth together with the belts. They haven't given us that yet. I really do want to see that.
Yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention as well, we got Grand Slam Bex, and we just had Grand Slam Finn. I'm pretty sure Finn used to train Becky Lynch back in the day when she was first learning how to wrestle or something like that. So they got some old connections. Is there something going on in upper management? Are they big fans of these two? Did they decide this is just a time? Do they got a friend up high that was we're going to drop the Grand Slam on both y'all? Just a small thought I had as well. I thought that was a little bit of a coincidence. And we seldom... Oh, I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I was going to say the telling part of that is if we get Grand Slam Sheamus. Maybe they're just checking off all the boxes and being who's one belt away?
Yeah, and the crowd loves it. The people love it every time we see it. So keep it up. Sheamus, he really deserves it as well. That guy's really held it down. He's like the Miz, but can go, because as much as WWE loves him and pushes him, he's never going to fade away.
Yeah, give that man the belt. Make him the transitional champion, please.
Yeah, and I'd be fine with that as well, because he's taking a little break, so we're bound to see him come back sometime soon. I'm eager to see in what place they slot him in. So that should be interesting. But my final thoughts on this little bit of a segment. Seth's going crazy. I love how he's like, I'm going to get that son of a bitch. And I think it's all just leading into him making a mistake because he told him, tell me your stipulation. And I think that's what Shinsuke wanted. And it's whatever it is, it's not going to help Seth out.
Yeah, but the thing is when you have let's say that Shinsuke does go for some sort of street fight or, whatever kind of match there is. I feel like usually the most unhinged person is the one that wins that because they're willing to go further than anybody else. And while Shinsuke is being portrayed as, uh, I guess ruthless, but definitely calculated. I think Seth is the more unhinged one here. So I actually think the more extreme rules that Shinsuke goes with almost plays more into Seth's favor because he's the psycho one right now.
100%. And I think maybe I've been picking up on things wrong, but I feel like they're hinting at a last man standing match because this all started when Seth was like, "You walked out. I didn't. I was in a wheelchair." And as we saw tonight, Seth was crawling basically to the doctor's office. So, and I feel like, just as you mentioned with the unhinged factor, that is probably the best match that Shinsuke could ask for with his injured back because, fatigue, stamina, putting down his back, he's already going to struggle getting back up after everything you hit him with. Logically, I think that might be the best match. Now, obviously, like a chairs match, a tables match could do that as well, but you're really only going to get a couple of those shots, and you can do all of that in the last man standing match anyways. So maybe it falls count anywhere, but I'm not the biggest fan of seeing those because there ends up being too much action on the outside, and then they're running through the crowd, and I don't know, all that crowd crap is just never super fun. But a nice last man standing match where they're trying to, I mean, you just gotta wreck this man's back. Bring out some new moves in the arsenal, to put this man down. Like, I'm really eager to see how this pans out.
Yeah, I think that's a good call with the last man standing. I also harken back to the times in the promos that Shinsuke's like, I want to embarrass you in front of your family. So I think another possibility could be an I Quit match. That would be very interesting because I don't really see either of them saying I quit, and that would be a long, brutal match.
Yo, I feel like we'd get an I Quit match, and then Shinsuke would win because Seth passed out, but then they'd be like, it's a TK or like, I don't know, it's some type of weird victory because he never actually said I quit. So he loses, but he doesn't lose the belt. Like, it's going to be something so convoluted, but I could see some dumb shit like that happening.
Yeah, that would be very WWE for that to happen. After this, we get a quick recap of basically not very quick, the entire history between Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre, including everything that happened at Clash at the Castle when Drew should have ended up Universal Champion that night. And it leads us right into the main event of Drew McIntyre versus main event Jey Uso.
Yeah, I'll jump right into this match and hit some highlights that I had. Starting right off into the match, Drew is showing off his strength. He throws Jey into the corner, and the mic inside the ring picks it up. He says, "If that's all you got, this is going to be over quick." And I love these little small in-ring things that they say. I believe earlier in the night, when Kofi was in the ring waiting for Ivar to come out, he was like, "Man, I want to slap that boy so bad," or something along those lines. So I like the little small things of seeing them getting hype in the ring before their match. Small, but I really love seeing that kind of stuff. But we get back into the match. Drew is still kind of showing off his strength. Does hit a cheap shot as we get the classic, tie up in the ropes. The ref is trying to split them up. But we do, get a cheap shot from Drew, who's playing into his heelish tactics. Jey is able to dodge that before hitting a few strikes and dropping a big kick onto Drew. A nice little kick, too, grabbing the ropes to step into that one. But Drew gets right back in it and knocks him down with the clothesline. Drew then throws him into the corner and starts beating this man down. Like, we talked about the strikes from Vinci and Ciampa earlier, and Drew was like, oh, so we're out here hitting now? And he just came out here and started beating the shit out of Jay. When he has him in the corner, he literally tears this man's shirt off like paper and just lays in with loudest chops of the night. I know Gunther was backstage feeling a little bit of jealousy because, man, he chopped the hell out of Jay here. And of course, he just starts beating him down in the corner. The ref has to break it up with a little, 5 count before we get, he gets disqualified. So he obviously backs off there because he doesn't want to lose in that manner. Jay tries to make a little bit of a comeback, gets his nice little uppercut slap, but Drew right back on top, stomping him in the corner, picks him up, and hits a nice little snap suplex before attempting a pinfall where we only get a little bit of a 2 count here. Getting right back into the action, there's a little bit of a mix-up as eventually Jay is hanging up against the ropes as Drew throws him into the ropes. Drew charges at him and gets thrown outside. As he's outside, Jay drops a suicide dive on him, runs back inside to hit another one before we get a little double down before a commercial break. Right as we come back from the commercial break, we have a couple of guests trotting their way down the entrance ramp. We get to see Judgment Day coming out here, all 3 members, I believe. Finn, super happy, just kind of, first he's kind of peeking out from behind Damian Priest and then, throws a double thumbs up. Finn's been gold this whole Judgment Day. Like, I feel like this has been such a highlight for everybody's career. And I don't know if I want to say the highest or the peak of all of their careers, but damn, like, I think it is, fuck, like this has just been good shit between all 4 members of this crew and a little bit of JD McDonough. He hasn't really done much, and I still enjoyed what he did in the past, and we might not ever see anything in regards to the Judgment Day with him ever again, but he hasn't been that bad in this unit. Really, really big fan of the Judgment Day, if y'all couldn't tell already. But right back into the match. They're at this point now they're fighting up top. Drew is trying to get a nice superplex onto Jay. Jay is fighting out, eventually knocks Drew down, only for Drew to run back up, hit a big forearm, and finally hits the big superplex. It took a while to get the superplex set up. They weren't necessarily fighting at the last second. It looked like they were probably just talking to each other and trying to make sure they had their proper footing. But it took a while to hit this one, but he does finally hit it. Jay does try to make a comeback. He doesn't put enough swag into his little spit slap that he's trying to add to his repertoire. I feel like if he put a little bit more swag into it, he might have hit it, but it wasn't quick enough, and he eats a Glasgow kiss from Drew McIntyre before Drew tries to run the ropes, but then Drew gets hit with the Samoan drop by Jay. Now, Drew does get sent to the outside, and we get another suicide dive attempt from Jay, but he eats the hit from Drew. Drew's able to counter it and gets right back into the ring. After that, Drew's trying to get Jay to get up onto his feet. Jay does get up, and he dodges only to eat a fat spine buster from Drew. Again, Jay tries to get some momentum, but immediately eats a neck breaker. And we get the kip up from Drew McIntyre, who just shows, he has the stamina. He's here. He's ready to go. And he says, why not? Let's get the big countdown. Let's get the countdown kick to Claymore going. But we get Dom jumping up on the apron to distract the ref. And we get Priest to just gently grab the leg of Drew. Doesn't really pull him off or anything like that, but is just enough to have him look away so that Jay can come flying in with a big super kick. We do get a 2 count, and we get the crowd behind Jay at this point. The crowd is chanting. Jay's kind of sitting in the corner, pulling himself up, and now we get, the Judgment Day kind of egging him on, hyping him up. We can see Jay kind of feeding off the energy of the Judgment Day. And at this point now, we just have Damian Priest talking to him. He's talking to him directly in his ear as Jay is on his feet. And we get the fist bump between Jay and Damian Priest right before, looks like Jay's about to get back into the match. and turns around and super kicks Damian Priest right off the apron. Surprise from the Judgment Day as Finn gets kicked and then Dom gets kicked. So it looks like we have our answer from Jey Uso. Looks like he does not want to join the Judgment Day, but as he handles his business there, he's barely able to turn around, and out of nowhere, Drew McIntyre hits the Claymore, 1, 2, 3, gets the victory over Jey Uso.
And now we know there will be no Judgment J. It's I'm glad. I'm glad that we got this answer. It should have probably come a little bit earlier, but one thing, I mean, there's a few more things to get into, but one thing that I want to call back to is when they were saying, Priest was saying about how Judgment Day really wants an Uso. So now that they have the answer from Jay, I actually feel like Jimmy will join the Judgment Day.
Yeah. And I love how he said that, you know, like they all want Jimmy, but I want you. So I don't know if he was just saying that, obviously, right, to bait in Jay, but they definitely want one of the Usos because, as they're mentioning on commentary, together they are what they say, the most prolific tag team or the best tag team or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they had the longest reign of all time.
Yes, and man, I know New Day are upset because they had that too. So we're obviously going to see some more New Day Uso action in a year, which I can't wait for. They always put on classics, but yeah.
So now the question is, at Survivor Series, do we get like a 3-man tag match, like Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso, KO, and Sami Zayn?
Man. And then we get our first taste of Jimmy versus Jey.
Yeah, and that would be the perfect way to tease it too, because we've been talking about how the rumors have been that they want Jimmy versus Jey at WrestleMania. But there's a lot of time between now and then. And this would be the perfect way to like give us a little taste of it before we get to that point.
That would be fun as hell. And as we get into the final moments of the show and the after segment of this match, we get a little bit more insight into the future. But right at the tail end of this, Jay gets pinned right after kicking these 3 guys off the apron. So obviously they're not happy. Judgment Day gets in the ring and we get a 3v1 beatdown of them just whooping Jay's ass for a little bit. Drew walks up the ramp and he's just watching. He's just looking and he's not coming back down to help him. And they're just going in on this guy. They're picking him up. They're throwing him down. Like Drew is just watching the entire time. And it looks like he's got a little bit of inner turmoil. He feels a little bit of potential disgust with himself, and so much so, but he just, doesn't care, turns his back and begins walking up the ramp some more. But we get one last ounce of humanity as he looks back over his shoulder and thinks, maybe I should go back down. But before he has the opportunity to actually make the choice to go save Jay, out comes, I guess, his friend, Cody, who comes to save him. Cody comes out, rushes out. He drops the low bridge on Priest, sending him out of the ring, sends Finn outside of the ring before hitting another crossroads on Dom. Dom's just there to eat Cody's moves all day. And this just led me to think, are we going to get Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre versus Sammy, Kevin, Jay, and Cody, potentially leading to Drew and Cody? That could be a way they finally make it through that storyline, because those two have to go at it because Drew is mad that Cody brought him here.
I definitely want that match. I'm a big Drew fan, and this whole segment kind of made me like question, we've been all saying that they're going to make Drew do a heel turn, but like his reservation coming down the ramp, because he never fully exited. He turned around one last time, and that, like, the look in his face that last time made me believe that like he might actually go down and help him. And I think that if it wasn't for Cody coming in at that exact moment, Drew may have actually like gone and helped Jay.
Yeah, I think so as well. I love how they kind of made him look back that second time to show he's not fully there yet. He's not fully a bad guy, but he's still, you know, he's leaning towards those tendencies. And I think they're hinting at it in the matches as well, because just as we talked about last week, he did the countdown and he didn't hit it. But when he hit it out of nowhere, he got the win. So I think that's going to be part of it as well. To lose that countdown, he's realizing, I just need to be more vicious. I need to make those hits. And I think as soon as we see him stop the countdown, that's when he's letting everybody know, fuck y'all. I don't need y'all. I just need my kick.
Yeah. I'm usually a fan of Drew's attire. The white kilt was a little weird to me. I don't know. How'd you feel about that one?
I the kilt, meh. But like the white tights, I like the white look. It looked different. And I don't remember the last time I saw him wear white. Maybe he wore it at Cardiff or something. I don't know. But it was different. Just like Gable, and you mentioned Cody earlier as well. A nice little change. I enjoyed it. I was hype on it. But I do feel like we're gonna see, like, this is probably one of his last opportunities to wear white, because usually when you're a heel, quote unquote, you usually wear the darker colors, right?
Yeah, and he's already got that badass like leather kilt, which hopefully will be like the full-time attire if and when he does make the heel turn. But I wanted this to be match of the night. Like, going into this show, I wanted this to be match of the night, and it was a very good match. I felt like it could have been a lot better. Obviously, there was a lot of shit that they needed to handle story-wise. It almost felt like this match was more about Jay and the Judgment Day than it was Jay and Drew. So I felt like that took a little bit of the juice away from the actual match. Again, still a really good match. It was going to be really hard to top Kofi and Ivar. Thankfully, they were very much spaced out, so it wasn't like, I mean, if this followed Kofi and Ivar, it would have been awesome to have two bangers in a row, but I think it would have shown, like, how this wasn't as good of a match as it could have been. So I was a little disappointed in that aspect. There were obviously some really good moments, but like, these two are two of my favorite performers, and I'm just hoping that maybe at least we get a rematch.
What I think this may have been the nail in the coffin between this feud. I feel like Drew feels like he's got his revenge, and the only thing we might see is we get some tags or something down the line, or we might get some beef between, Cody and Jay. Why didn't you come out? Why didn't you help me? And Drew's eventually going to be like, whatever, I was going to, or get out of my face. You don't talk to me like that. We'll see how he reacts when he eventually gets confronted by one or both of these gentlemen.
Yeah, maybe we'll even get an apology.
Yeah, potentially. I was very hyped. I did expect this to be match of the night as well. But now seeing it, I feel like this is kind of the match they should have had, and kind of what you'd expect. Like, it's friggin' Drew McIntyre. Like, I don't want to say it was a big man, small man match, but like, Drew's a fucking big man, and Jay's just more of an average guy compared to Drew, right? So we weren't really going to have, in my opinion, a convincing back and forth. There was a lot of Drew being on top, Drew beating him down because he is the physically superior individual. So that's I guess it kind of played out how you would have expected it to be, but I had a lot more expectation for what this could have been. Maybe they were holding things back because this obviously looks like the start in a much longer storyline, and we're probably going to get some amazing action, especially when we actually get a PLE match between somewhere involving these group of individuals, between Kevin and Sammy, who I wish had a tag team name. Judgment Day, Cody, Jay, Drew. They're all going to be intertwined for the next few months. So we'll see what other matches we get from that.
Well, I don't know if you caught it, but they did say that there is a rematch next week. We got KO and Sammy versus Judgment Day for the titles.
Yeah, I did miss that. Should be interesting. Obviously, we're going to have Judgment Day retain. Are we going to see the return of Ripley? Is she healthy enough to come back and help them win? I wonder what's going to happen here.
Maybe Drew returns the favor and helps them win the way that they helped him win.
Potentially, my literal guess, Jay's going to come out, try to help, and end up causing Kevin Owens to get pinned.
Yeah, he's going to super kick KO in the face.
He's going to try to kick Dom, and Dom's going to move. Like,
yeah. Or they just turn it into a 3-man. Like, I really do think that that's what we're going to get at some point. Is I don't know if it's going to be Jay, KO, Sammy, or if it's going to be Jay, Cody, Sammy. But I feel like we're going to get a 3-on-3 tag match between Judgment Day and one of those two groupings.
for sure. But man, just please, like, Sammy, Kevin, just leave the Judgment Day alone. All right. We need to do some, I don't know what we need to do to split them up for a little bit. Cody too. I don't need to see y'all and Judgment Day anymore. I feel like if they make me feel like they're the only people on Raw.
Fair. I mean, they are the most dominant faction in the WWE, especially once they get an Uso. Maybe, but the weird thing is, I still feel really adamant that there's more talent on Raw than there is SmackDown. And when it comes to Raw, if you're going to beef with a faction, you have two choices. You beef with Judgment Day or you beef with Imperium. So Seth is tied up with this Shinsuke thing. Seth isn't tied to anybody, so there's nobody to tie in there. So I mean, who else are you going to beef with, you know?
Yeah, and I think another problem is what tag teams do we even have on Raw that aren't bad guys? Like, not Imperium, not Viking Raiders, because they're not going to go up against Judgment Day heel versus heel. We have New Day.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, like, what's next for New Day? You know, that would be nice. Maybe they do. To me, that would be a nice PLE like mid-card match, is a title defense of Judgment Day versus New Day. Day versus day, so to speak. And obviously Judgment Day would probably retain. I don't see New Day beating them, especially if it were to happen soon. I don't know who's going to take it from Judgment Day. Maybe they have it for a really long time and then we get some sort of weird reunion with Jay and Jimmy and then they take it. I don't know. I have maybe it's Jay and Sammy. I have no idea where that is going. I don't know who even stands a chance to take the titles from them right now.
Yeah, I can't see who takes them right now. I don't even know.
I mean, Street Profits is the first place my mind goes. Like they're the main ones.
Yeah, and what I'd like to see is, give me a Survivor Series triple threat tornado tag team match where all members are legal at the same time, and we end up getting a double pinfall on Priest and on Balor by the, you know, Raw and SmackDown teams that eventually win tournaments / #1 contenders matches to get into this triple threat, so we can finally split these belts up.
That would be ideal.
But I don't know what other base teams on Raw that we have. We have Alpha Academy, New Day, and who else? Besides Kevin and Sammy, like, who else?
I can't think of anybody. I mean, other than the heel ones.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what. Like, obviously, like, I'll probably look up the roster the next time we talk about Raw, right? But come on now, we need more, right? Like, you need to. This feels like the women's tag division.
I mean, I guess you could say, if it's even a thing, Ciampa Gargano.
Yeah, and Gargano's been MIA, but bring back DIY. You know, that they're great, classic stuff there.
I just feel like they don't they don't really know what they're doing with the tag division right now in both men and women. Because like the women, it basically just doesn't exist, and the men, it's, you know, especially once Jay and Jimmy split, there's just, aside from Street Profits, I don't feel like there's what, 2-3 tag, like legitimate tag teams, not just two singles dudes put together on each roster. You know, you got Street Profits and OC over on SmackDown. I'm trying to think if there's another one. If there is, I'm blanking. And you've got the ones that we have run through on Raw. Like there's not a ton.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see some NXT teams moved up here soon. I don't even know who are some top NXT teams, because I feel like it's all a lot of. I guess we got the Creed brothers. Let's get the Creed brothers up on Raw. That'd be fun.
I'd take it right now.
I feel like they're next up on the list. Didn't they get drafted? I'm sorry.
If they did, I don't think I've ever seen them on a main roster show.
Yeah, I've never seen them. I feel like they got drafted to SmackDown.
But I mean, they drafted the Katana Chance team, and I think we saw them once or twice.
Yeah, they'll be back after
one of them get injured.
Zoe Stark. No, when Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler win the titles, they're gonna feed them Katana Chance and Caden Carter to beat the shit out of them before we actually get a real feud in the women's tag division, who's just gonna be two nobodies. We need to finally get Io and Asuka in a tag team. I think that'd be lit.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. Well, everybody, that was a very eventful and jam-packed Raw, to say the least, between 8 matches and probably like 12 goddamn segments. Very, very busy night. Could have done without some of the matches, but an overall pretty good episode. So I will let my dog Henron over here take us home.
Appreciate that, my dog. You know, keeping up the streak of decent Raws. I feel like we're still on the uptick. Good episode. Very excited for next week, as I know all of you peasants are excited to hear what we have to say next week as well. So until then, I thank everybody for your ears, and we hope you have a good night.
Deuces.
Peace.